Hi there, I'm Cheryl, and today we'll be making this lovely birthday card. Lots of lace layers on it, and it's pretty. Embossing that I've accented with some of the Nuvo Embellishment Mousse, and then the inside has a decorative die cut also. So this is what we're going to need. We need to have 2 pieces of Whisper White cardstock that are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I've embossed those already using Sizzix, one of their textured impressions for the A2 size cards. And this is, let's see, it's called Ornate Frames set, and I used the vines, Heart and Vines embossing folder for that. We're only going to be using one side of it. We're going to use this side right here. We're not going to, this part here isn't going to show on either of the cards, so they're going to be oriented like this, and one will be die cut. Then we need a piece of Marina Mist cardstock. This is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored and folded at 4 1/4. That's our card base. We need another piece of Whisper White that's about 3 1/2 by 5 1/4. This piece is bigger, but it's a scrap. I used it to cut the other piece, so I'm going to use this part to die cut. Then you need a piece that's 4 1/4 by 2 inches. And I'm using the Picture Perfect Birthday stamp set. That's by Stampin' Up. And we're using Happiest of Birthdays to You for the front. And then in the inside we'll put, Today we celebrate wonderful, brilliant, fabulous you. And the Spellbinders dies that I've used are Majestic Labels 25. And I'll be using this bit here, if I can get it out. This one here, and that cuts out our piece. It has the edge cutting die part, and then this part here. But if you have something else that you'd like to use on the inside, then use that. And this set of dies came with special tips from Spellbinders. I find it interesting. They suggest that you use an extra piece of scrap paper within your sandwich as a shim. Let's see, it has other ideas. Use a piece of wax paper between your die and cardstock to help release intricate pieces. Now, I love these lacy dies, but you know, sometimes they can be a pain to get out. Let's see, if you're using a Spellbinders machine, use a metal shim instead of the standard sandwich, base plate, cutting, blah, blah, blah. Run your sandwich through the machine 1 or 2 additional times. I know I've done that quite a bit. And so it just gave these extra little tips in there I wanted to share with you, because not all of my die sets came with that. Why it came in this one, I don't know. But I just thought that was interesting. And then we're also using the A2 Scalloped Borders 3 set from Spellbinders. I had these lovely little flower rhinestones in my stash. I have no idea where I got them, but my New Year's resolution for this year is to use up some of this stuff that I've collected over time. So I'm going to use them on my card. But if you don't have these, and if you like them and can't find them, if you put just plain rhinestones on instead, there is no shame in that, and that's going to be perfectly fine. Got a couple of sponge daubers, my Tombow glue, and then I have the 2 different colors of Nuvo Embellishment Mousse, and this one is Pacific Teal. And this one is Pink Flambe. And I have my black Memento ink. I'll be using, of course, I'll be using my die cutting machine, my Big Shot. And then there are a couple things that are, they're optional, but they're definitely handy to have. One is a paper piercing tool, otherwise known as a pokey tool. And not only is it good for paper piercing, but it's good for poking out little bits in the dies that don't quite want to come out, as well as using them to set little things like rhinestones or pearls. And I will be using that for that purpose in the video. And also these, I forget what this is called. Well, I'll have it down below. I'll list it down below. But if you love lacy dies, you know they're not always the easiest thing to get all those little bits and pieces out. And while it's optional, it sure is handy to have if you have and like the lacy dies like I do. So first let's get our little 2 inch by 4 1/4 inch piece out. I'm going to open up my teal embellishment mousse first. And I'm going to pick some of that up with my sponge dauber. And I know you see these used a lot of times with fingertips, but for this application, I found that the sponge dauber works better. So we're just going to put some of that down. And you notice I'm dabbing it off, because if you don't dab that off, you might end up with some little chunky bits from picking it up out of your jar here. And I'm just going to make some little cloudy areas with that. And close that up. You want to make sure you close this up, because you don't want your mousse drying out. Okay, and we're going to switch daubers and use the pink Flambe. And anywhere there was not blue, and even overlapping a little bit, we're going to put that down. We're going to cover this piece of Whisper White totally with these 2 colors. So you get a nice cloudy, ethereal, how you like that word, effect. The mousses are nice because when they dry, they are dry. They won't reactivate with water. Unlike dye-based inks or anything. You know, a lot of the inks, if you get a little drop of water on them, they're gonna blotch and not be so pretty. So let me clean my table up here. Okay, so we have this piece ready, and we're going to die cut these pieces. Well, one of these pieces. I think I'll die cut this one. And I'll get my scallop borders. And I used this one and this one for the white. So I'm going to put that on top here. And I've used this one and this one for my colored piece of cardstock. And when I run this through my die cutting machine, okay, on these dies there's a little notch here and a little notch here. That's not a mistake. They did that because that will line up with your edges of your 4 and 5.5 inch card sizes. And I want this. Let's see, I need to measure. Okay, I want to come down 1 3/4 inches. 1 3/4 inches. So I'm just going to put my ruler here. I'll put this here like this. I measure over on this side. 1 3/4 inches. And when I run this through the die cutting machine, I will put a piece of tape on this, and it'll be on this side. Okay, but I will use a piece of tape because I want to hold my borders in position. I don't want them to shift and move when I put them through my die cutting machine because they can overlap each other and damage each other. Just so many things that can go wrong. So I will use tape on that, even though I am going to be using my magnetic platform. If you don't have a magnetic platform, that's fine too. Use your other thing. You're going to have it taped in place. They're not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to tape these down, and I'll be doing the same with this one. I will line these up with those little notches there, but I'm going to have this actually touch the top of the piece of cardstock when I do this one. So I'll be back in a little bit. I'll have this die cut. I'll have my die cut done for the inside of the card, and I'm going to do my stamping too, I think, before I come back. So now's a good time. You stop the video, go run, get yourself a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Let me move some of the stuff. I notice it's casting a big shadow here on my table in the video. So I've got everything die cut. I stamped it, and now we're ready to do some shading on our embossed portions here. So I'm going to use the Teal Nuvo Embellishment Mousse. Just going to pick some up with my sponge dauber and just lightly over the top, because we only want it hitting the high areas on our card. And on this, I'm going to do a little bit around the edge too. So let me get that edge a little bit better. And just real lightly over the top here. And if you get a little bit on your paper, well, that's not going to make all that much of a difference. But we want to try to hit just the high areas. And then we'll do the same on this one. We don't have to do the bottom part of this. We'll do the same on this. Then we can start to put our card together. That's the best part, I think, when you start to see it all come together. When I'm designing cards, making my sample cards, I often use repositionable tape. Now I can move things around until I get them how I like them. Sometimes I start out with an idea, and until I'm finished, the card is nothing at all like I imagined originally it's going to be. Okay, so we're going to have these two pieces lined up like this. And then we're going to have that pretty pink and blue showing through our lacy parts here. So let me get my Tombow. I'll just put a little bit of glue here on this thicker edge. And we'll put some down here around the bottom of that edge. Line those up. There we go. And then this whole section then is going to go on to the front of our card. So again, we'll put some Tombow up along this edge here, and then just all over the back. If you wanted to pop it up, you could. It's going to have a little bit of a pop-up type of feel to it anyway because of the embossing on the piece underneath. Let me line that up. I find that if I stand it up like this and tap it down on the table, that helps me to get my edges all lined up nice. Okay, so I just pat that down a little bit. And we can add our little jewels, whether you have flowers or just a rhinestone. See, this is where this pokey tool comes in handy. I've seen people use their scissors, but that never really seemed to work for me. So I'm going to put one up here, right in the center. And pick up another one. And I'll put that right in the center down here of our embossing. And then I'm going to put one right here next to the happy birthday. That's so that your eye is going to be drawn to those. So what it's going to do is going to go whoop to happy birthday, or it'll come up here and it'll stop and say, and you'll see the happy birthday. That's where your eye will go. Okay, so let's put this on the inside. Get some of my Tombow glue on there. Be careful you don't get too much close to the edges because you don't want that seeping out. Okay, that looks like that should be plenty. And we'll center that. And we can put our front panel on and our card will be finished. So I hope you liked this video. This is a little something else you can do with your embossing folders. If you have one like this. That's like, because I use just this portion of it, it's like it's a whole new whole different embossing folder. And I could also do it with just the which is the heart portion, and then have another whole look for my embossing folder. So there's our card. Happiest of birthdays to you. And today we celebrate wonderful, brilliant, fabulous you. So If you've liked the card, be sure to hit that like button down below. If you have any questions or comments, then leave them there also. I pride myself on getting back to people pretty fast. At least within a day's time anyway. And I'll have all my all the supplies that I've used. I'll have that listed down below also. And oh, there was one more thing I wanted to share with you. I was watching a video by Tim Holtz. Okay. And if you've seen the stamping platform, so Stampin' Up! Has a Stamparatus platform now too. And I have a mini Misty. I have this one. And I was thinking, do I really need a third one? And I think I'm going to get it. My next order, but that's going to be a little while from now. But anyway, I digress. These two little magnets that come with it. You know, if you have anything like this that has these two magnets, you know they're very strong. And if you get them anywhere near each other, they jump together and they could break. Or if you have your finger in between, they pinch your finger. And they're just little boogers to get them apart. You have to slide them and pull them. But his little tip that I found wonderful to remember is think of them as two prize fighters. And if they're in their corners, they're not fighting. If they come out from their corners, they're going to fight and snap together. So keep your little prize fighters in their corners. So even if you're using it, pretend this was a piece of paper that I was going to stamp. I'll put that in here on my thing, on my platform. And you put one in one corner, put one in the other corner. And keep your prize fighters in separate corners. So, that was... Well, I exhausted my camera battery, but here I am, still chattering on. So let me wrap this up. So if there are any Stampin' Up! Products that you'd like to purchase, I would love if you'd use me as your demonstrator, and you can do that either through my Facebook page or my blog. There's a shop button on either one of them. And as always, I'll have all the materials I use listed down below. And y'all take care, stay safe, and happy stamping.